I had decided to carry a 40 cu per foot tank of 16/45 mix to start the descent, but as soon as I began my descent, I regretted it. It was clipped between my legs and banged annoyingly against them. My descent was fast, around 30 meters per minute, and I soon reached the 91 meters, 300 feet tag, clipping off the 40 cubic tank and switching to my bottom mix before beginning my final drop. The darkness closed around me as I sped past Jorge and dropped through the 140 meters, 460 feet mark. As the visibility dropped, the suspended particles speeding past added to the disorientating effect. At 160 meters, 524 feet, a wave of disorientation hit me as I lost track of the line. I slowed my descent, tracking from left to right to find the line. After a few seconds I found it, and with a sigh of relief I speeded up the descent. The visibility was still dropping, and by 180 meters, 590 feet, I could barely see the second descent line, which was only 2 meters from me. I looked at my computers. Both had passed 207 meters, 680 feet. I knew that when converted, it would make me at a real depth of just over 200 meters, 656 feet seawater. I had primed myself to expect an increase in breathing resistance, although it never came. The Apex 100 regulators were superb. Likewise the TX50s I used for decompression. Suddenly my vision went. The world was a blur. HPNs, I thought. I had had a mild case of HPNS on my dive to 200 meters, 656 feet with Chuck. Again I slowed the descent, and with another 2 or 3 meters it cleared. I realized that I had just passed through a thermosaline. It was probably this that had led to the Bleward effect. The water was now bitterly cold. Glancing at my gauge I knew that I had lots of gas left. I soon passed the 225 meters, 738 feet mark, knowing that I was now in new territory. Visibility was now bad, down to between 1 and 3 meters. Both computers were locked out, reading 252 meters, 833 feet converted to saltwater, 246 meters, 808 feet. I carried on down, now focusing on the depth markers, and after a couple of minutes, I saw the 250 meters marker. I was surprised that it took so long to reach it from where the computers had locked up, and sometimes wonder how deep I really went. Later we measured the line dry at 254 meters, 833 feet. I clipped off the signed slate, reading it for the first time. Both Jim Noble and Alan Nash, the 2 judges, had signed it and added comments. I looked around, straining to make out anything through the flashlight beams. Total blackness. I started my ascent, letting the line run through my fingers, the overall objective of the next 6 hours being to prevent bubble formation. I started at 25 meters per minute, and at 180 meters, 590 feet, I slowed to 15 meters, 50 feet per minute. By 150 meters, 495 feet, I had slowed to 10 meters, adding 30-second stops every 10 meters, 33 feet to ensure a slow ascent. Looking up from 140 meters, 462 feet, and seeing the silhouette of Axel, I relaxed a little. On reaching him, he handed me a slate and pencil. I wrote 250 meters and carried on up. From Axel, it was up to Darren. The long decompression was only just starting. I extended each gas switch point with the exception of the 150 meters, 490 feet. This ensured that the new gas was fully circulated. It also made the most of the high PPO2 in the new mix. Because of the increased off-gassing at the switch points, I cut time from the stops just above them, resulting in no increase in the overall dive time. I used 7 different mixes for decompression, finishing on oxygen at 6 meters. Chuck, John Millard and Peter Wilson all helped with the required switches. Weighing up the pros and cons, I had decided to rotate the O2 with a helium-rich mix at the 6-meter stop. This was aimed at protecting my lungs. After a short period on oxygen, the blood vessels constrict. Shortly after this, the pulmonary tissues start to swell. This dual effect cuts back on the off-gassing process. Helium back switching was aimed at ensuring a cleaner decompression. On top of this, the scheduled breaks from oxygen helped to buffer the toxic effects caused by breathing oxygen for too long. The decompression was, to say the least, boring. For my 2 to 3 minutes on the bottom, I had to pay 6 hours and 40 minutes in decompression. The time passed slowly, very slowly, with both Noel and Peter staying with me during this time. 396 minutes after entering the water, I left the 6-meter stop, taking another 6 minutes to reach the surface, the slow ascent on the last few meters absolutely critical. I remained on oxygen for 30 minutes whilst resting on the surface. This period was to ensure that there was no exercise, and to allow the body to carry on off-gassing. I felt drained, but very happy to feel the sun. I was surprised at how far we had drifted. The platform had worked well. Joe ran continuous medical and neurological checks, ensuring there were no problems. Joe, a working paramedic, had flown in, especially to be our medical cover. At the end of the day, all had gone well. Measured coiled on dry land, the line was 254 meters, 833 feet. Like many endeavors, there are many people who ensure its success, and apart from heartfelt thanks to all those mentioned above, Frank Doyle of Laguna Beach Club, who lent me so much equipment, even making up another set for his customers. Apex regulators and the dress-suit from 03, when you have the best, there is no need to add anything else. As well as CTM Macau, Abyss Dive software by Chris Parrott, Rodriguez Viagons, Rotary, Mott MacDonald, and Zazimic Int. On arriving back at Captain Greg's, I radioed Gab, my wife and our 2 children. How was it? She asked. Fine, I replied. After a pause I added, Gab, I think that's far enough. Silence, and then John, can I have that in writing?